The CDJ-3000X has just been released. These are new pro media players from AlphaTheta, Pioneer DJ, same team. Like all previous CDJs, these are aimed at pro DJs, at clubs and festivals, at professional DJ setups, and they are also, of course, aimed at people who just want the best money, no object. Previous was the CDJ-3000. We're going to be looking at the CDJ-3000 in a minute just to compare what's changed. We're also going to look in this video at what hasn't changed. And I think most interestingly, we're going to analyze the features that aren't so obvious here and see what that tells us about where AlphaTheta sees the DJ world heading. And of course, we'll talk about whether you should buy the CDJ-3000X. I want to start off though by switching out this setup here for just a CDJ-3000 and a 3000X next to each other so we can see what has changed from the old unit to the new one. So to start with, 10.1 inch glass screen, just like the screens on the XDJ-AZ, the Opus Quad. Inevitable that that was going to come to the CDJs, right? And that is easily the biggest visual change. The new one is slightly bigger, although that said, its kind of footprint as far as the depth of it and the height of it go is the same, so it still looks great next to a mixer, but this is going to need a new flight case. It is wider, and the screen, because it goes back further, also comes up higher as well. So a bigger unit. The jog wheel is exactly the same size. It looks like it isn't, and that's because this has got a light bezel around it on the old one. On the new one, it's now a dark gloss bezel, which is more subtle. Overall, the styling is more subtle from this one to this one. It's less busy on the new one, partly because of the size, partly because they've removed some of that gloss. There's gloss around the outside of the old screen. On the new screen, there is matte around the outside. They've taken off some of the superfluous print, so you don't get the list of all the music file formats that it will play on the 3000 there is gone from here. Some of the wording's gone at the bottom. Some of these lines have gone on the tempo. I guess they're expecting you to use the screens to look at your tempo and not to be doing it manually using printed lines here. The branding's more subtle. The Pioneer DJ branding is gone. You just have the AlphaTheta logo on the new one now. I quite like it. This looks quite old-fashioned to me now, I have to say. But hey, that's just me. Probably more importantly, the old style USB from this one has gone. Now you have a USB-C around the back. On this one here, you have a USB-C instead of the SD card slot as well. Still got the USB-A, but the SD card slot from there has gone. It's now a USB-C on the new one. From the screen down though, it really is business as usual. There's a few changes which we're going to look into a little bit more depth about in a second, but it's the same unit, same muscle memory, everything's in the same place. They're soldering on with the memory cues. I know some people still use the memory cues. They're soldering on with the old style looping buttons. A lot of people prefer the rotary loop controllers now, but this is a 3000X, not a 4000. They're trying to keep things, as they always have done, conservative with a small c on these units, so that DJs that have been using these for decades know where everything is, which is probably quite smart. Notice that the buttons now don't have the full color lighting, they're just a ring, which is kind of like a modern touch. Also a modern touch, something that you don't notice straight away, but I noticed after a little while, the track search and search buttons are now white, not yellow like they were on the old one. But striking as to what hasn't changed really as to what has changed down here. As I say, there are subtle things which I'm going to talk you through in a second when we look at the usability. One of those is that these rings around both the selector here and the cue button here can change color depending upon what source you've got selected or what hot cue you're using in a certain mode that we're going to take a look at. So there are little things like that, but one physical thing is that the jog adjust, which is now called jog feel, goes a lot tougher and a lot looser on the new one. So if you set it all the way to light, this will kind of spin forever. It really will on the new one. On the old one, at the lightest setting, it stopped a lot quicker. Likewise, on the heaviest setting, this one was still quite loose. On the heaviest setting on this one, it's a lot tighter. So this has been designed to address something that DJs didn't like about the old one, which was that they felt the jog adjust wasn't brutal enough, if you like. It certainly is on the new one. But for actual physical changes, we're clutching at straws now. There isn't an awful lot extra to tell you about. The time mode and auto cue button has gone from the top here. That's now in the settings here, and also there's new cue modes which we'll get into talking about. But around the front of the unit, and chatted about in all the inevitable online speculation as initial pictures of these leaked, is something that's innovative, and that touches on probably the biggest change going on in this unit compared to the 3000. Because when you turn on your brand spanking new CDJ-3000X, this is what you're greeted with. Source, cloud login. This unit here, and you might have noticed a little Wi-Fi symbol at the top here, has got more ways than ever to access your music away from your USB drive and away from a local computer. And my reading of this is that AlphaTheta is starting to think very, very hard about how the DJs of the future, and I'm not talking about our generation, I'm talking about the next generation and the one after that, are going to want to access their music. And here's a spoiler, it isn't going to be from a local USB drive. So let's look at some of the things that are in this unit that haven't appeared in any CDJ to date and look at how it moves towards that vision. So cloud login. This is logging in to a single cloud account, which allows you to access both your own music. So this is something already existing, of course, Cloud Direct Play, and also your music from streaming services once you have performed a single login on this unit. So whether you're connected to the Ethernet via Pro DJ link, the way that these units have always done it, or you've gone into the menu, and look at the lovely screen, by the way, you've gone into the menu and you've selected network and you've selected a Wi-Fi service that's available wherever you are, you will see in the unit here this cloud login page. So how do you log in? Well, you can do it in the old-fashioned way, which is when you've got a USB drive and you've enabled it in Rekordbox, you can plug that in and it will say, hey, yeah, this is you, and therefore I'll allow you to log into Cloud Direct Play and get your music from the cloud that way. But that's what that little symbol around the front does, because if you have Rekordbox, the Rekordbox app on here on your phone, then you can just hold it on the front and NFC will log you in straight away via the Rekordbox app, which is quite cool. You're logged in on your phone, so it'll log you in on any CDJ as well. There's also a way of doing it via a QR code on the unit itself. So if I click Cloud Login, you see there's a QR code here. It's also saying I can use it with my phone. Again, you just scan the QR code with your phone and it will take you to the Rekordbox website and you log in. So it's a bit like when you log into Netflix on your TV or something, right? You don't have to sit there putting a password directly into the unit itself. Once you have logged in, and in this instance, I'm going to use the Rekordbox app on my phone, hold it on the front. It tells me there's an NFC tag that I can use and it will log me in directly to the unit that way. You get to see your choice of services available to you. So Cloud Direct Play is your music in the cloud if you are a Rekordbox cloud subscriber. And then you have so far Beatport and Tidal as well that you can log into. AlphaTheta tell us more streaming services are on the way. But you get the idea, right? So here are my choices of music over the cloud on the new player. Let's then talk about the next thing that they've added, which is quite a clever way of getting around the idea that I don't want to stream over the cloud in case something goes wrong. So I'm going to now go into my Cloud Direct Play. This is my music in the cloud. This is how Rekordbox works if you subscribe to Rekordbox with a cloud feature, as we do here at Digital DJ Tips, and your music is kept in the cloud. That's what also allows you to add cue points to your music on your Rekordbox app on your phone, another subscription, and so on, right? So that's what I've got here. This is Rekordbox Cloud Direct Play accessed on this unit over the Wi-Fi in this instance, right? So here's my music. I can just play this. But of course, one of the issues people have with doing that is what if the internet goes down? So the way they've got around this is quite clever. The idea is that you go through your playlists, your music, whatever, and you choose the stuff that you want to play next, right? So let's say I want to play that track there. I add it to my tag list. This button here adds to a tag list. It's like a prepare window, right? And then this track here. And these are all being added to a list of tracks from my collection that I'm wanting to play imminently, right? So I'm adding a few of them there like that. When I click on tag list here, all those tracks are here, but this little symbol here that shows me a cloud is telling me that this has been downloaded locally from the cloud. And you can download 40 or 50 songs locally from the cloud like this. Now these are now not going to cause me any problems to play because they're on the machine itself. So it's a local copy. You can't download whole playlists or anything like that like this. And they say 40 to 50 songs. And so that gives you a kind of halfway house between what DJs really want and having no locally available cached versions at all, right? But what's interesting is that it doesn't stop with just your local music. Because if I go back to here and go into my Beatport, now I can do the same here in Beatport. So I can choose some tracks. I'll just choose a few from the Afro House. And these are now all in a tag list here of Beatport tracks that I can now play from, and these are cached locally. You could, maybe if you were looking, you saw them all arriving there. And so this again means that I can play these tracks knowing that if the internet wavers a little bit, it's not going to cause me any problems. Now, if I understand it correctly, if your internet goes off totally and stays off, then the Beatport tracks you've cached locally won't work after a while because I guess licensing, I guess that kind of thing. But that's not likely to happen, I guess. That's my understanding of it anyway. But anyway, it's giving you a far more reliable way of playing streaming stuff, whether it's your own or whether it's from one of those streaming services on the unit by putting them in a tag list. And by the way, when you load a track, I just want to load that to my deck, right? When you load a track, it also caches the whole track, but obviously it takes a little while to do it. You can see it taking a while to do that there then. And the difference is that, so this will now play, right? This will play if the internet wavers and goes down or whatever. But the difference is that I can do that ahead of time with the tracks in the tag list. What you can also do, which is super cool, is tap this global button at the top. So this is my Beatport tag list, but with global on, it's now included all the tracks from my own cloud playlist. So you've got your Beatport tracks at the top and your Rekordbox tracks underneath, and you can sort these how you will. So effectively, you're playing out of a temporary playlist across, in this case, 2 sources, but I could of course include Tidal in there as well. You can't do this on a playlist as far as I can tell, but you can do it on a global tag list. Right, talking of playlists, let's look at some changes they've made to the way playlists work. And again, this isn't actually something new, but it's something that's new to the CDJ. It's appeared on other gear from AlphaTheta before. So this is where you can have favorite playlists saved for easy recall. I'm gonna go into my playlists list here. I've only got 3 playlists, but typically, of course, us DJs that have a lot more than that. I'm gonna click on Early Doors, and I'm gonna click on Bank 1, which lights up. Let's just do another one. Let's do main set on bank 2, right? So now when I'm back here, I'm browsing away like normal, and I think, you know what, I really want to get into that early doors playlist. So I click playlists, and now I tap bank 1, and it's straight into my early doors playlist, or straight into my main set playlist. Now these are there until you click delete. Click delete and then click on a playlist. It's now free for you to put something else on it. Did you notice that edit button at the top of the playlist there? This is new as well. At the top, you can tap this button with edit written on it. And when you do that, you can put your hand on a track and drag it to wherever you want in a playlist. So now it's possible to move your playlists into some kind of rough set this way. And then this will be reflected wherever this playlist is in the cloud, if you're using Cloud Direct Play and so on. And AlphaTheta tell us that more playlist editing functions are coming, but at the moment, being able to rearrange the tracks in the playlist is where it ends on the CDJ-3000X. It's possible to cut and paste or copy and paste information from any field and then use that in a search, which actually, if you've got a big collection, is going to be really useful. So for instance, if I wanted to find all the tracks by one of my artists, let's change this view here so I can see my artists. I want all the tracks by Max Mozart. I'm going to hold there and it says copied text to clipboard. Now I'm going to go to search and I'm going to click paste. That's now at the top, and here are all my tracks by that artist. Okay, so we've looked at all this clever stuff. What are they actually like to DJ on? They are, when you set a pair of them up like this, or 3 of them up like this, or 4 even, with a mixer that they're meant to work with, they just work like the old ones do. There is a firmware upgrade for the old 3000s, which means that they also work fine alongside these, although of course they wouldn't get the new features. So you're going to see these slotting in over time to DJ booths wherever you play out on this kind of thing, and you're not going to have any problem at all getting into using them. That said, there are a few subtle changes which we really like. Let's have a look at 1 or 2 of them. So the first one is the DJ AM mode. Now this divides people right down the middle. I call it DJ AM mode because it's named after DJ AM, and Serato did it first, I think. You touch this little eye and the title of the track disappears. How sneaky is that? If you're playing boiler rooms type sets, or you've always just got people looking over your shoulder in the DJ booth and it annoys you, or you've got something you're kind of not meant to officially have or whatever, you can just hide on there. the title of the track on the individual player. So that's pretty cool. They've also, and this is more useful I would say, added a couple of things that you need to go into the menu to sort out. So you hold down the menu button to get into the utility menu. The utility menu's been redesigned. It's not in capitals anymore. There's a lot more stuff that fits on here, which is just as well because there are a few new features. So you've got hot cue color. If you set hot cue color on, then your hot cues all take a color which is different per hot cue, rather than having them all green and them all orange if they happen to be loops, right? Which is one way of having it set. If you have that set to on and you have overwrite current cue with hot cue brackets smart cue set to on, then if you also finally are using a mixer which has got link cue on it, right? You with me so far? Then you can listen in your headphones ahead on the currently playing track just by touching the waveform to see what's coming up, which is useful but not new. What is new is that you can now add hot cues ahead while you're listening. So you can go forward in a track, you can find a place you want to jump to or whatever, and you can add a hot cue there while it's currently playing to your audience. They will never know what you're doing. I'll show you how that works. So if we're playing a track on this deck here, let's go to the beginning of this track here and play from the beginning. Now I can hold my hand down on the waveform of the track anywhere. So for instance, I could hold it down up here at this break, right? Now you can see that it's gone to the break here and it is still, the track's frozen. I can move around, see my fingers moving? And it's moving me around to areas around here. Every time I stop moving, it starts playing from that area, but only in my headphones. So as long as I've got that button pressed on the headphones there, link cue on the mixer, I'm hearing this now in my headphones. I'm literally listening to the point from this waveform where I touched. Of course, you can't hear it because you're listening to the main output like the audience would be. But what that does mean is I can find somewhere here, like for instance there, that I quite think should have a hot cue on it. And I'm listening now just to double check. Yep, I've played that, previewed that. I want a hot cue there. I can add a hot cue in there. So I now have a hot cue added to the track at that point. And you can see that hot cue is added to the track at that point because I've got a B here, same color, right? So it's making it all very clear. So this hot cue is now up there, and that means I can jump to that hot cue at any point I want by just hitting it. And it will play from there, and I know it's going to be the place I want to be at because I've just previewed it, right? So it's a nice way of kind of live remixing tracks, even if you don't know them that well. Let's have a go at that. Now notice something else. Notice that this cue button is now the same color as that hot cue. And the reason that that's happened is that this cue button will now control that hot cue as well. I can go back to that hot cue by pressing this cue button. Did you notice something else then? If you are used to using these, and especially if you've come from software which doesn't usually work like this, have another look. This cue was momentary or gated. Finally, you've got the option of having a gated cue on this, which was one of those other settings that you would have seen when I was in the menu here. It was this gate cue on or off. You can now set that to on, and you can have your hot cues behave as gated cues, just as they can be set in pretty much all DJ software, but never until now on CDJs. I'm pretty sure I've covered it all there. Works with Serato, as long as you've got the right subscription or you own the right version of Serato. Works, unlocks rekordbox if you want to use it with rekordbox software. And even though I've been using the cloud for all of this, because that's one of the big new features, it works as it always did with USB drives, works as it always did with Link, so that you can use Ethernet and Wi-Fi to get to your collection on a local laptop computer, if that's what you want to do. It's going to work with DJ Pro software later on in 2025, they tell us as well. And I know people are going to ask this, so just before I wrap up and conclude, let me show you how many tracks you can fit on the screen of the software. So this is the kind of standard view that I like, but you can use this to make it either bigger or smaller. If you make it smaller, I make that 16 tracks as opposed to the 12 you used to have on that small view on the older screens. For some DJs, there's an elephant in the room here, and that elephant is stems. These units do not give you any control at all over any type of stems, even though one of the streaming services available, Tidal, offers stems to DJs, kind of. Even though it is one of the buzz phrases at the moment in DJing, you're not going to find it on here, whereas you would find it on the Denon DJ SC6000 players. And you will also find layering on those players, which are the closest thing to this on the market that isn't this, which means that you can have 2 tracks playing on each deck and you can switch between them. So 2 decks would effectively give you 4 decks of DJing. I will leave it to you to decide how important those things are, bearing in mind who these are for. Pro DJs, of course, you go to any pro DJ booth, and if they want more decks, there's more decks, right? So you can have, instead of, as I've got it set up here, 2, you have a third one on the end, as we often do when we film our courses. Ferry Corsten, for instance, is using the setup you're looking at now with an extra one on the end for our trance course with him. But equally, you could have 4. Or, of course, if you want to use stems, most DJs playing big shows tend to not want to press a button on the unit and just isolate the a cappella or the instrumental there and then. They would prefer, I'm guessing, to prepare that stuff ahead of time. I'm guessing. I think AlphaTheta would like to add stems to their equipment. They do add stems to their software, for instance, but I just don't think they're ready to add it to their Pro Gear. Pro Gear, as I said earlier on, is very conservative. I mean, even if you just look at it, remember these are an X, not a 4000. Even if you just look at the units, how would you do it? Which buttons would you use to give pros something that wouldn't trip them up and make them think twice about pressing things when they're performing? I don't know. It's nowhere obvious. In my view, they're going to add stems to a mixer at some point. This is my personal view. I've got no insight on this. I just feel that the mixer would be probably a more logical place to add them. You could have stems across any input then. You'd need to have an extremely expensive mixer with an extremely powerful processor in it. But you could have the effects that could only affect particular stems that you chose. You already have low, mid and high for frequencies on the effects. So you could have different stems available on the effects, for instance. I just suspect that might be the kind of solution that longer term they're looking at. But there are no stems on here. There are stems on the equivalent player from Engine, the Denon DJ SC6000. So there you go. That's all I can tell you about that. It ain't here. All right, so that out the way, they sound amazing. The sound quality, as they've told us, has been bumped up from the previous ones. I ain't the person to talk to, and I certainly don't spend my time looking through stats and signals to noise and all that stuff. What I can tell you is that they sound great in our studio. They sound great on my headphones, and apparently they've been tested here, there and everywhere to make sure they sound great in the best clubs and festivals. And finally, before I sum up, apparently these buttons are good for about 500,000 extra, and I quote, energetic presses than the previous model. I mean, you can just imagine someone sat there in AlphaTheta headquarters in Japan pressing a button for 3 million presses to see if it can get past the 2.5 million on the CDJ-3000s. No, I'm pretty sure they have some kind of mechanical arm to do that for them. Anyway, there you go, more durable buttons. To use these things then, they are better than the previous ones for the big reason that the screens are really, really nice. They have got things that a lot of people would like, gated cues being one, the ability to basically edit playlists, and by basically I mean do the basic stuff as opposed to anything more important. People don't know whether they want the cloud stuff because it's all so new, but I suspect that over time DJs will warm to that more and more. Having the NFC on the front is smart. Having the ability to unlock the units with the QR code is smart. I found the QR code version more reliable than the NFC. Sometimes I had to reboot Rekordbox on my phone or even reboot the whole unit to get the NFC to work, but hey, it's there. So that's good. The universal login is good, although having to log into Beatport every time is a proper pain. So please get that one sorted, AlphaTheta. All that said, that new streaming stuff does feel like a halfway house in lots of ways. Financially, it feels a little bit like you're going to need to really be into the idea to do it, because you're going to need to subscribe to your streaming services. You're going to need to subscribe to a cloud version of Rekordbox, and you're going to need to subscribe to the Rekordbox app for your phone to get the full experience. You don't even get that when you subscribe to Rekordbox on your laptop, which does seem to me to be something which quite rightfully is going to put some people off. It's too many subscriptions, and you could just put your music on a USB and play from it with no subscriptions anywhere, right? So that's, again, early adopter stuff. We're not at the point where this is something that everyone's going to go for. Is that the way it's going to go? I think it probably is. I feel we're moving to a world where whether you're using a setup like this, a controller, your laptop, or your phone, you're going to be able to buy music, build playlists in streaming services, tag music, have mixed playlists and have them available in all those places. So for instance, on these units here now, as we saw earlier, if I'm in my personal music, I can be adding stuff to a tag list. When I've got a tag list, I can save it as a playlist. And then from that playlist, I can reorder things and so on. I think that we're going to get to a point where you can save your global playlist. At the moment, if I click save on there, I can't save a global playlist, which has got stuff from Recordbox in it, stuff from Beatport in it, stuff from Tidal in it, whatever. I cannot do that. I cannot make a playlist like that and edit a playlist like that on this unit and then carry on my phone and then carry on my laptop and then play from it on a controller and stuff. I just can't. But I think what we're seeing here, which is what I said at the very beginning, why I find this quite exciting, quite interesting, is that AlphaTheta is seeing that as the direction of travel. And more than anyone at the moment, they're trying their hardest to rethink what playlists are going to be like, what DJ libraries are going to be like, where the music's going to come from, and how that's going to work across multiple systems, whether it's preparing stuff on your phone, DJing from a controller, being on your laptop, building your library up, or indeed being in the DJ booth and wanting to mess with your playlists and play from various things, logging in very simply on 1 or 2 units like this. So these are evolution, not revolution. They're going to disappoint people because, of course, as ever, they're not cheap and they don't have the current buzzword, which is stems, built into them. However, they are moving in the direction that DJing is going in my opinion. And for those people that they are built for, professional DJs making money from this, you're probably not going to be buying them anyway because they're just there in the venues and these are the features that you're probably going to be using. And if not you, then the DJs who follow you are going to be using them, and that is kind of the exciting thing about this, where it's all going. Right, well, there's a lot that we've covered there, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Disappointed, excited, intrigued, stuff that you've been looking for a long time? Is it the little things that are pleasing you, or is it the big things, or is it just a whole load of hot air? I don't know what you think until you tell me, until you tell us. So please don't hold back. There's comments open underneath this, whether you're watching it on YouTube or whether you are watching it as part of the written review on the Digital DJ Tips website. If you are on YouTube, you can get to that written review by clicking underneath. If you want to know how to use the CDJ-3000X, Digital DJ Tips will be producing a video manual and training tutorial for them, just like we did for the 3000s before it, and just like we do for much modern DJ gear. The idea is that you can use our training tutorials for free. They're long, a couple of hours long, to go through the units, every single knob, button, fader, and learn everything about it, even if you haven't even got them yet. You just ordered them and you're waiting for them, right? So go take a look at that. You'll find a link to that when it's ready underneath this video as well, or at the bottom in the footer on the digitaldjtips.com website. And when you are ready to learn what to do with this stuff to rock dance floors, please do come and check out Digital DJ Tips and all the courses we have, including, if you are a trance fan, our Ferry Corsten trance mixing masterclass, which uses the very gear that you're looking at now. Meanwhile, for me, Phil, here in the Digital DJ Tips School studio, get good, get out there, make the moments, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.